Hello and welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and we have a great show for you tonight. No matter what winter sport it is that you're a fan of, whether it's wrestling, gymnastics, swimming and diving, basketball, indoor track and field, we're going to have them all tonight, so stay tuned. But before we get to all of that, we want to thank the folks that help make this program possible. Our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. Also, don't forget to check us out on the web. We have some brand new video clips up at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Well, I am delighted to be joined in the studio tonight with Chantilly's head wrestling coach, Phil Cronin. Welcome, Coach.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, I know your team having a good season this year, and you just had a match with Oakton, which was your last regular season match. Can you talk a little bit about the highlights of that match for your team?
Well, it was an exciting match. It was the our last district match and last regular season match before the district tournament. Oakton's a very tough opponent. They're traditionally a very, very strong team, and they have a new coach who's doing a great job over there, John Welcher. So we knew that it was going to be exciting, and it was their senior night. Probably the highlight for us, though, we won where we thought we would and lost where we expected to. But the exciting part of the night was our brand new freshman 171-pounder getting his first varsity win. He's filling in for an injured wrestler and pinned his opponent with 1 second left on the clock. So that was pretty exciting.
Now, of course, the regular season is now over. You'll be heading into districts on Friday. Are there particular things that your team is looking to improve upon heading into districts, or specific things that certain wrestlers are working on?
Well, yeah, this is the regular season, while it's a lot of fun for the fans, is more like a scrimmage for most of the coaches. We're building our team and we're getting them stronger, figuring out who goes into what lineup. Once you start the postseason, once you start the districts and the other tournaments, you're really looking to get the individual wrestlers ready, both mentally and physically, for to be top 4 in the district, top 4 in the region, and make it to state. So it becomes a very individual sport at this point.
Now, I know that one wrestler who has been having an exceptional year this year and has had a great career at Chantilly is Lloyd Tenaglia. I know he got his 100th win earlier this season. Can you talk a little bit about his career at Chantilly and some of the highlights he's had this season?
Well, having Lloyd on the team has just been fantastic. The Tenaglias moved in. They're a military family, which you get a lot around here. They moved in when his older brother was a sophomore and Lloyd was an 8th grader. And so we got to work with him a little bit before then. But Lloyd started right off the get-go as a freshman, and it's just gotten progressively better. As a matter of fact, the very first tournament he ever wrestled in, he wound up in the finals. And we knew we had something special, and he was just an incredibly hard worker and really learned the technique. This year he got his 100th win, which is quite a milestone for a high school athlete. Gets his name up on the wall in the wrestling room, which is exciting. And he's currently sitting at 26-7, which for the schedule where we actually wrestle in 2 national level events, is pretty good. Lloyd will be looking for his 2nd district title, his 3rd regional place winning, and he's looking for that first state belt and hopefully a state championship, because that's what you aim for.
Now, people talk a lot about Lloyd, but you have a really strong core of seniors. I know Chris Cabe, Daniel Hudson among them, who are 3 of your 4 captains. Can you talk a little bit about what their leadership has meant to your team, which is a bit young this season?
It really is. We're predominantly freshmen and sophomores this year, but the seniors, and these are young men who've been in the program for 3 years now and going into their 4th, have just, they're not all the seniors are the best wrestler on the team, but they're the most dedicated. These kids have gone to every camp I've ever asked them. They come to weight room sessions. They come to lifting during the spring and summer. They come to wrestling during the spring and summer. They really serve as a guide to the younger ones. They mentor them. They talk to them about managing weight and, wrestling different styles. So having people like Seamus Haggerty and Eric Sauer, Stephen Cobb, who's the older brother of our freshman, and Zach Dratch, all those guys, Dan Hudson, have just really, really shown the younger guys,
Do you build into your regular season schedule?
Sure, and again, that goes back to what we said. It's all about preparing for the end. You really, as a coach, you try to build your schedule with as tough a schedule as you can. You want to challenge yourself. Going to Pennsylvania, that's the hotbed of wrestling. I mean, you're not going to get any better than that. It's a little too expensive to go to Iowa, so that's the next best thing we can do. Lloyd had a phenomenal tournament, and it really was exciting. He You wrestled some top quality schools, traditional powerhouses, and made it to the finals against one of the area's best, a young man who's a sophomore but considered one of the best they have. And he pinned him in the finals, and coaches were coming up to us and being voted by the coaches as the outstanding wrestler of the meet. For an out-of-state kid, that's almost unheard of. So it was very exciting. He won. Chris Cabe also won a championship there. At the time, he was still undefeated, so for him to roll through that tournament and do well at that level was pretty exceptional as well. And hopefully the mental side of that, that's really what you get out of going to Pennsylvania, that you know you can win against the very best, so that when you come back and you wrestle in your own area, it's not as intimidating for you.
Now, we've talked a lot about your seniors. Of course, Jack Carlson as a junior will be back next year. He's a captain this year. Who are some of the other wrestlers that you think will step up and fill some of the shoes that are being left by these graduating seniors?
Well, Jack's gonna have to pick up an awful lot of slack for both Chris and Lloyd. Jack is one of those go-getters, and he's definitely a leader by example. We're also looking to junior Daniel Jiang, who was filled in last year at the end of the year for an injured wrestler, got a lot of mat time and has really been kind of high and low this year, and we expect big things out of him. We've got a couple other strong wrestlers in our lightweights, obviously Ben Cobb coming back, Joe Rainey, who's a freshman at 103. The young man played ice hockey up until now, and he seemed to think it was a pretty good idea, and his older brother wrestled, so he came out. And of course, I have a 140-pounder that I'm expecting big things out of. My son is a freshman this year and made the starting lineup. And well, he had a pretty rough season this year. He's a pretty strong kid, and he's a pretty dedicated kid, so we're hoping he'll do pretty well too.
Now, I know that you've been very involved in the wrestling community in this area for a while, and when people talk about basketball, they talk about AAU programs and things like that. Are there comparable things for wrestlers?
Oh, definitely. Like any other sport, it's what you do in the spring and summer that gets you ready for the fall and winter. Around here in Northern Virginia, it's Mat Club time that you talk about. We're sponsored by USA Wrestling, which is the parent affiliation that preps our Olympic teams, which is great. USA Wrestling is really, really helpful at the grassroots level. They'll oftentimes, if you have a clinic, they'll send an Olympian down to do a clinic for you. It's very friendly to the high schools and lower levels. So young men, but all three of my kids who are doing very well, Chris Cabe, Lloyd Tenaglia, and Jack Carlson, were all members of Team Virginia last year, and that's through this whole USA. They qualified at the state tournament. Jack was a Greco state champion. It's Olympic development. It's Olympic style, but it fits into what we're doing. A lot of the same skills translate, and all three of them made it to the national championships over the summer in Fargo, North Dakota, which there's 4,000 athletes out there, and every Division I, II, and III college coach is out there. And again, sort of like going to Pennsylvania, you go to an event like that where there's 200, 150 people in your weight class. You win a few matches out there, and then coming back to Virginia doesn't seem quite so scary, and you feel a little bit more prepared.
So you've talked a lot about how the regular season prepares you for these championships coming up. So you've seen a lot of wrestlers in the region, in the district. Who are some of the wrestlers you've been most impressed with?
Well, I'll tell you, Northern Virginia is loaded this year. We really feel like, once you get down to the state tournament, it's not even so much about your personal school's pride, but it's your region pride. And even district, we're in the Concord district, which is just a brutal, brutal district to get through in any sport. Even, I'm sure if we had chess teams, would probably be outstanding there. But some of the other wrestlers to look for, you've got Roman Perryman from Robinson, who just moved up to 135. He's a state champion, state place winner, and an outstanding young man. You'll find him most weekends refereeing little kid tournaments. He's everywhere. Other kids, you've got David Helmer from Langley. David Helmer is a returning state champ. He's also a fantastic student. He was a heck of a football player. We played against him this year. And he's just a nice kid. So you've got kids like David Helmer. Westfields is loaded with young men. Nick Grinnups at 145, who's going to be contending. Actually, 145 is a pretty deep weight. 3 of the top 5 kids in the region are coming out of our district, with Reed Brown from Robinson, Nick Grinnups from Westfield, and then, of course, Jack Carlson in there in the mix. So there's a lot of really strong wrestlers. We expect, hopefully, to take a lot of Northern Virginia medals down in Virginia Beach or Chesapeake. in the next couple of weeks.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to following your team throughout the rest of the season.
Well, great. Thank you very much, and we love the exposure. Wrestling's a great sport. Come out and watch our district championship this weekend. Thank you.
Well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more of the Fairfax Sports Report. Welcome back. We are going to shift gears now and talk about some basketball, particularly the National District Boys Basketball. So we're going to take a look at a graphic so you can see where we stand right now. You see Mount Vernon on top, perfect in the district, followed by Stuart. We'll be talking a lot more about Stuart in just a minute. Wakefield and Yorktown battled it out last Friday night. Wakefield came out the victor in that one. Then Washington and Lee there at 1-6. Edison and Falls Church finishing out for the district. Now, last night there was a huge game in the district. It was Stuart squaring off against Montrose Christian, one of the premier programs in the country. We have some highlights from that matchup. It was very exciting. There you see Terrence Ross getting off to a quick start for the Mustangs. Stuart holding strong. Antonio Harris had the hot hand for the Raiders all night long, and you see Terrence Ross again with a very strong outside shot. But that is Yarrow right there for the Mustangs. He is, of course, going to Villanova next year. He is their star player. They got it inside all night long. Another good look at Antonio Harris there, but it was Yarrow working all night in the paint. That was their game plan. You see just the highlights go back and forth. Yarrow, Harris, great play by both teams. Harris, nice move there for Stuart. Yarrow showing he can give an assist there to his teammate Terrence Ross, and then he'll go to work himself in the post there. Jonathan Ford there. I'm sorry, not Jonathan, William Ford. Sorry, Jonathan Ford is, of course, over at Wakefield. And then Antonio Harris hitting the big shot for his team. You see it was quite a shootout there, high-scoring game. Both teams had great offensive efforts by their star players and lots of dunks going on from Yarrow. His teammate, Isaiah Armwood, is also going to Villanova next year. And this Montrose Christian program, a very exciting one to watch. And Stuart, one of the premier programs in the National District. Certainly a team that you're going to want to keep your eyes on as we go both into the National District Championship and into the Northern Region Championships. They're very well coached by Tony Harris. There you see the stats. Terrence Ross for Montrose Christian, 24 points. And then, of course, Moof Yarrow, 27 points. And Antonio Harris, can't say enough good things about that young man. He is quite a player over at Stuart. Of course, Stuart has a huge matchup coming up on Friday night against Mount Vernon. I'm going to be there, and next week we'll have a lot more about the National District. We'll have highlights from that Yorktown-Wakefield game that I was talking about, as well as interviews with both coaches. And so you'll have to wait for next week till that. But right now we're going to take a quick break. And when we, I completely forgot that we have a coach interview with Stu Vetter, one of the premier coaches in the country. I'm standing here with Stu Vetter, our coach of the game. Congratulations, Coach, on a big win tonight. Stuart made some big runs. They had some big plays. Can you talk a little bit about your team's composure tonight?
Well, I thought it was a great atmosphere. I think anytime you come into an opposing team's court and the stands are filled, I think that's a great atmosphere to play in. And I was pleased with our composure down the stretch. This type of game can go either way if you don't maintain that composure.
Now, of course, Stuart does have some big players, Antonio Harris among them. Can you talk about your team's defensive effort tonight?
I thought defensively we did a good job. I thought we did a good job offensively in the second half of getting it inside and doing the things where we had mismatches. I thought their guards played extremely well and controlled things and did a good job.
Now, of course, you have St. John's Catholic coming up as your next game. Anything you're looking to improve upon or to focus on as you head into that matchup?
Well, that's the school I coached at years ago. I coached 6 years at St. John's. Back then it was called St. John's Prospect Hall. So that's always a great game to play against them. They're coming into our place, and they're a good team. We're looking forward to the challenge.
Well, Coach, congratulations on a big win tonight.
Thank you very much.
So that's it from the National District this week. Again, we'll have lots more National District stuff next week, but now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm delighted to be joined tonight by Ivan Chirinos, the head coach of the Edison Indoor Track and Field team. His team's having a great season so far. Now, Coach, I know that last weekend some of your athletes participated at the Virginia Tech Invitational. What were some of the highlights of that meet for your team?
The The group that made me the most proud was the girls group. Both the girls 4x8 and the girls 4x4 relays did very well. They both broke the school records by a humongous amount of time. The girls 4x8 record was 9:58, and they ran a 9:45, so that's a good drop right there. And our girls 4x4 record was a 4-minute 10-second race, and they ran a 4:05. What's more amazing about those performances is the fact that it's a freshman, 2 sophomores, and a senior in each one of those relays. So the future for the girls program is looking great. It's just awesome.
Now, I know that you have one more meet coming up, a quad meet, before you go into districts that'll be against some of the teams in the district, Mount Vernon and Stewart and Falls Church. Are there things that you're looking to improve upon in that meet, or things that specific athletes will be looking to improve on?
I'm looking at picking up a couple more field events. I'm still working on the high jump, the shot put, and I'm actually going to have a meet outside on Saturday just so I can get the long jump and triple jump in, because TJ doesn't have long jump pits, so we have to kind of make do with what we have. So I'm just trying to fine-tune a couple of things, see if we can get a couple more qualifiers so we can run more people in certain events. And just it's basically a tune-up. And the fact that we had technically 3 days off, we definitely need this meet to kind of tune everything up and kind of use it also as a small practice also before the districts comes around.
Now, I know one athlete that everyone in the region has been talking about for years is Lee Degfei.
Yes.
He had an amazing cross-country season, placed 12th at the Foot Locker Nationals, and now is doing quite well in indoor track. Can you talk a little bit about the qualities that make him such a strong athlete?
Lee is just one of those kids that, you know, every coach would like to have 50 of. He works hard. He says very little. It's actually sometimes a little detrimental because we don't know when he's hurt or not. He just kind of fights through everything. He does very well in school, and it's all in all, it's not an issue as when it comes to being eligible to participate, and it just puts everything into the team. And ever since his freshman year, he's elevated everybody else's performance around him, and that's why the 4x8 relay, especially, which is what I call his meat and potato race, he's helped that group, even the seniors, that when he was a freshman, even those seniors stepped up because, hey, now we got a horse to run with us, so let's go ahead and back him up. And he's just been one of those guys, very humble, very, very low key, very quiet, and just kind of takes care of business, and is always smiling, very friendly. He's even friendly with his competition. You know, everybody loves him in the region, not only because he's a great competitor to run against us, but he's also a great person to know as a friend.
Now, that 4x8 relay, of course, last year won the indoor state championship. Yeah. How is this year's team? Is it the same personnel, or I know the Degfeis are still? Well,
we've been holding the twins out of the relay for a bit because they actually have been doing better in the events that we have been working them into, the mile and 2 mile. The 4x8 is kind of like their fun race. And but yeah, we've been kind of holding them out of that race. But I know they're biting the bullet, trying to get back into that relay, and you know they're working themselves into it. But we've been working on other people so we can have something not just for this year, but for the next years to come. You know, that's the thing with track. We kind of have to keep showcasing our talent, but also keep building it up in the background so that when that talent is gone, we got other talent that we can showcase.
Now, we've talked a lot about Lee. Of course, T, his brother, is also a sensational athlete. How important do you think it's been that they've had each other to train with and work with each other and push each other throughout these years?
Well, in a small school like Edison, it's been very key. In the larger schools like Braddock, Robinson, just in sheer numbers, usually they lock out and have that group of 1, 2, or 3 kids that can sort of kind of train with each other. At Edison, since we get less numbers, sometimes, we have Lee over here and everybody else over here and nothing in between. So it's kind of hard to find somebody to actually train with them. So having the twins together has been great because they bounce off each other so well, they complement each other, and they just feed off each other's energy. So.
Now, earlier you were talking about some of the girls' relay teams, and you were talking about a sophomore. I don't know if that's Maya Hicks that you're talking about, but she has been very impressive to be only a sophomore and competing so well. What do you think have been the biggest highlights for her so far?
Well, last year we had a really strong girls' sprint team, and the fact that she was able to get her foot into those relays, the 4x4, even I tried in the 4x8, and we went to a pen relays. They came back with my first ever pen relay plaque for winning their section in the prestigious pen relays relay outdoor. So she's gained a lot of experience, and luckily for me, a lot of that experience rubbed off on her, which is now rubbing off on everybody else off of her. She's very young, but once, like Lee, she's very humble, very quiet, hardworking, and she's a great student in school. So it's one of those things, you know, it's just I keep lucking out with kids that are just good quality kids that luckily rub off on everybody else.
Who are some more of your younger athletes that you think are going to be the future after, like, the twins graduate?
Well, on the girls' side, we also have Tony Duval, who's kind of blossomed since last year. And then on the guys' side, we picked up a couple of juniors that out of the blue are just running real great. You know, we got Teddy Holmes, we have Dante Pornesso, we got a couple of guys. They're juniors, but you know they're basically new to the program because their first year running was last year. And then we have Gerardo Munevar, who's our two-miler. He's doing an awesome job. He's training with those twins and just taking as much as he can from those guys. And there's a couple other guys that just keep surprising me every time they step on the track.
Now, of course, people in the National District are very familiar with the Edison indoor track and field team. You guys are, I think, the 5-time defending district champions in indoor track.
Something like that, yeah.
Does that put a lot of pressure on your athletes for this year to keep winning that championship every year?
I have a banner in my room, and I basically said tradition is hard to give up. And that's what I've tried to do. I know when I went to T.C. Williams, tradition was big there. And I mean, we were defending district champions there too. And the year that I ran for T.C. Williams, we went districts, regionals, and states, indoor and outdoor. And like one of my teammates from T.C. said, I'm not going to be the one that drops the baton. And that's it. And that's to make it if possible for a team to win the championship. So I've been trying to kind of put that at Edison, and the kids are sort of kind of responding. Unfortunately, I tell my guys, district is just a hump before regionals and states. My goal is to get those guys to what I call the big show, regionals and states, and district is just one of those necessary evils we have to go through just to get to regionals and states.
Now, I know that you've been involved in the track community for a number of years. You're very familiar with a lot of the other athletes at other schools. Who do you think are going to be some of the strongest competition for your athletes going into regionals? I
was just talking to my team about this too. In the National District, unfortunately, Edison being, I guess, quote unquote, a powerhouse, I have 6 other schools gunning for us. So that kind of weighs a little heavy on us, but I think my guys are pretty much ready for it. Luckily for us, at the regional level, things kind of level off, and it's more of an even playing field. The nice thing that we have going for us is that we've been able to pick it up all the way across the board. We have good field events, we have good sprints, and we have good distance. And we've been getting better at the chess game of where we put our pieces to better score points and take care of business at regionals and at states.
Now, Coach, one of the biggest stories this year has, of course, been the proposed budget cuts that could possibly, in the worst case scenario, also include indoor track and eliminate it from Fairfax. There have been arguments both ways, but certainly it's very important to have indoor track as a high school sport. What do you think are some of the reasons why it is so important to maintain this winter sport?
The biggest reason, and it's just giving the kids something else to do. I mean, it'd be crazy to put, like the numbers say, 2,700 athletes in Fairfax County, basically out on the street. Basketball has to make cuts. So even swim and dive has to make cuts because they're limited in space in the swimming pools, and then beyond that, wrestling might be the only program that will benefit from track, and even then, you can't have that many wrestlers. So it would just put a lot of kids out on the street, and I know for a fact, especially at Edison, besides the whole training, the whole track, and the whole defending district championship and stuff, I'm more concerned about their future. You know, how are they going to do in school? You know, and I check grades every 2 weeks. I make sure that they're going to class. Teachers email me, parents email me. I turn on the pressure. I'm more concerned about them as people than just, you know, kids that we can just toss to the street and just, hey, go fend for yourself. So, you know, do some kids see me more than they see their parents? Probably. And you know, that's something that a lot of coaches in the area basically are willing to do and sacrifice for those kids because we see the future. And so.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with more FSR. Now I am joined in the studio with Susie Hamrock, the head coach of the Woodson Swim and Dive team. Welcome, Coach Hamrock.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Now, I know that your team recently had senior night against McLean. What were some of the highlights of that meet?
It was fantastic. The team spirit we have on our team is incredible, and the seniors lead the way. I have 6 senior captains, 2 girl swimmers, 2 boy swimmers, and a dive boy and girl each. So we have 6 captains. They're all seniors. They lead the team in spirit, and they just do a fantastic job. So we were so glad to recognize them and all 14 seniors. And the seniors competed in senior relays. Mm-hmm. We had a boys relay, and they won their event. And the senior girls relay, they competed as a team, and it was just really fun, a lot of spirit. And the parents escorted the seniors down in the middle of the meet to receive flowers, and they were recognized. Our principal was there, and our athletic director was there to recognize the seniors. And I really felt like they felt special, and they contribute to the team in so many ways. Not just swimming and diving, but as team leaders.
Now, you've talked about these seniors. Who have been some of the top athletes that have been scoring a lot of points for you all and maybe doing multiple events at meets?
Right. Well, this season we have a huge, a lot of depth and some really great swimmers. Our junior class and our freshman class are our strongest classes this year, so our future's bright at Woodson. Kevin Vest was our lead sprint freestyler. He broke his toe right before Christmas, so he's been out, and we're hoping to get him back for the swim districts, regions, and states. Then Michael Chestnut, Peter Slattery are some of our strong boys, and then our girls, Jill King, Caitlin Ryder, Maggie Rogers, Rachel Rogers. They're both freshmen, and they're not sisters, but they just have the same last name. And we just have a huge, I could name, almost all of our team. They all contribute, and they all perform so well and do a good job.
Has there anyone who has impressed you with their improvement, either from what they were doing last year with times to this year, or even in this year they've made a huge leap in what they're doing? Right.
Well, as this is my first year as the head coach at Woodson, so I've noticed just from time trials at the beginning of the season, every week people are achieving their best times and doing fantastic and trying to make, we already have swimmers who have made region cuts and state cuts, and they're just so fast. They're swimming fast. We have been hit really hard by sickness in the last 2 weeks, and luckily, it didn't impact, too heavily, but we were missing a third of our team the last 2 weeks, and different members. And then some members were back, but still sick and swimming sick and really dedicated, but it's been a tough go. So we're hoping everybody will be healthy for districts in another week.
Now, we've talked a lot about your swimmers, but definitely want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the divers as well, because I know they bring a lot of points to the team and contribute a lot as well.
Right. Well, Rob Carvajal is our dive coach, and we're really lucky to have him. He is fantastic, has been on the dive scene in Fairfax County for a long time, and he works with our divers, and I oversee the program. And I know P.D. Gibbons is our senior captain, dive captain, and he does a fantastic job on the boys' side. And the girls have some young talent, Kathy Jennings and Samantha Eldridge. But we're hoping they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 this week against TJ in diving to help us score points and win the meet. So they really contribute a lot to the team.
Now, when I was looking at your roster, I noticed you had 77 athletes listed. With so many athletes and I think 3 or 4 coaches, how do you all structure practice such that you can help everyone achieve both their individual goals and then team goals as well?
Well, we almost all of our swimmers swim year-round on the club teams, such as Machine and Curlberg and Fish and Marlins and Makos, and they come to our high school practice sometimes just once a week. They have to come to our high school practice once a week to compete in the high school meets on Friday nights. So we fit them in, and we work on alternating sets between freestyle and all the strokes, and work on some drills and starts and turns and finishes, and pretty much touch-ups, getting ready for the meet each week, because they're competing and practicing before school with their other teams, sometimes twice a day with their other teams, and then with us, and they're just top-notch athletes. And so we try to complement what they're doing outside of our high school practice. We only have an hour practice at Oakmar, and it's hard to get in as much yardage as we'd like to. So we try to get in, earlier in the week a little more yardage, and then we lighten up a little bit before the meet on Friday. So that's about it.
So you talked about the fact that a lot of your athletes do participate in these club programs. Have the majority of your athletes been swimming and diving for quite some time, or do you have a lot of athletes who decide that they want to participate in a winter sport and come out for your
At this point, swimming has gotten so competitive in this area that unless they're swimming in a year-round program, it's not impossible, but it's very hard to make the team. We did have to make cuts. We had more than 90 athletes come out for the swim team. And if they weren't swimming year-round or in a competitive swim program or during the summer, they were really at a disadvantage. Unfortunately, at the high school level, it's not a learn-to-swim program. It's more of a competitive swim program. And these top athletes, most of them will swim in college and continue on with their swimming career. They're dedicated and talented athletes that will keep going. So almost all of them swim year-round in some kind of club team.
Now, I know before districts you have one more meet, I think, coming up with Jefferson. Are there specific things you're looking for your team to improve upon before you go into districts?
Well, before we swim TJ, we would like to have a practice. We've had, 5 days off with teacher work days, holidays, snow days, and now we've had pneumonia, bronchitis, the flu. Everything has hit our team, everything's hit our team in the last 2 weeks. So we're just hoping to get through the sick days, the holidays, the snow days, and get into the pool again and to get ready for districts. We're hoping to start our taper and get in shape for districts. We're going to go with a strong lineup against TJ so that we know what the swimmers are going to swim in districts, and some of them are going for regional cuts. And if they make the regional cuts this week, then they can swim other things in districts. And we're trying to piece together what will be good for them, what they need to do for themselves individually, but also what will help us as a team to win and to compete in districts.
Now, speaking of districts, I know that you've seen the other teams in the district at individual meets this season. Who are some of the athletes in the district that you've been most impressed with?
Well, on the boys' side, Madison, McLean, and Woodson are just going to go head-to-head in districts. We're hoping to come out on top, of course, but Robbie Parker and Sean Fletcher at Madison, and they're just phenomenal. And they're the boys that I noticed the most and paid attention to the most because that was our toughest meet. We lost to Madison. That was our only loss for the boys. And on the girls' side, we lost to Langley by 1 point. We lost to Madison by a few more than that, and then we only beat McLean by 6. So the girls' side of it's going to be tough too. And Eva Green at Haycock. She went to Haycock Elementary School. I was her PE teacher there, and she's at McLean, and she's fantastic. She almost beat us in the relay at the end, and that would have been the meet. And it was such a great race. It was very exciting right till the end. But all the swimmers in our district, we're in a top-notch district, and I think every team, every week, there's swimmers that stand out. But what we've had is we have some top-notch swimmers, but the depth has helped us with so many strong swimmers. 21 freshmen. We have a third of our team is freshmen coming in, so we're really looking forward to the future.
I'm sure with all the injury or all the illness you've had, it's been really important.
It helped having the depth with all the injuries, and the illnesses. Not injuries.
Now, Coach, one of the biggest things people have been talking about this week is this new proposal by the school board that would have some of the more seniors, I guess juniors or seniors, coming to school later. And one of the implications that's been discussed is it could affect swim programs because of the timing that swim programs are able to swim at the facilities that are available. Can you talk a little bit about this, just give a little of the background and then talk about some of the implications?
Right. Well, we were really concerned when we received news that swimming might be on the chopping block because of the SLEEP initiative. And there's pros and cons, and there's people for it and against the SLEEP initiative. And we were really upset when we heard that swimming might be cut because we would hate for that to happen. It would just be devastating to so many people in the community and the swimmers themselves and the families. But I think we were concerned also that we had heard that Fairfax County Park Authority wouldn't be willing to move this, get the time when we can practice. And then we heard that that's not the issue, and that's not the case, that they'll be willing to work with us and find a time when we can practice. And as far as swimming goes, our swimmers are already used to swimming in the morning. So we could swim in the morning. Even for the high school, we could have practice before school, after school. We'd be willing to practice whatever. Just don't cut our program. I mean, that's our main point, is to not cut the swim program. We will work around the Fairfax County Park Authority schedule, and hopefully they'll work with us and we can make it happen, because it would be devastating. I mean, the kids need the swim program in the high school to be a part of. They swim year round. Mm-hmm. They don't have time for other sports. They swim before school, after school, year round. That's all they do off season. They don't have other sports, other activities. So swimming is their life, and to be able to be a high school swimmer and be an athlete, a letter winner, just a part of the high school community means so much to them. So I hope they can keep it on board. I mean, the fair grade passed, so I'm hoping that the sleep initiative may pass, but keep swimming on board.
Well, Coach Hamrick, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have more FSR.
You're watching the Fairfax Sports Report on Channel 10. Woo!
One more time.
Special thanks to the Stewart High School cheerleaders for that. Well, we've talked about boys basketball. Now let's transition and talk a little bit about girls basketball. And today we're going to focus in on the Concord District. So let's take a look at the Concord District standings, where we are right now. Of course, big story in the region. Oakton is undefeated so far on the season, followed by Westfield in second place at 6-2. Herndon 4-4. Robinson also with a record of 4-4. Centerville at 4-5, Chantilly struggling a little bit in district play at 2-6, and then Fairfax at 0-8. Now, one of the big games last Friday night matched up Oakton against Chantilly. Our own Jen Daniels caught up with Oakton head coach Fred Priester. You can see what he had to say.
Hi, I'm standing here with Oakton head coach Fred Priester. Coach, congratulations on the win. Any thoughts on the game?
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. The kids played really hard, and as did the Chantilly kids. District matches the second time around are always tougher than the first time around. And, it's nice to be at home where you got some good support. But, we had to scrap throughout. We played really good defense, I thought, throughout particularly the second and third quarters. And, we were able to scrape together enough points to win.
And that's what I was going to ask you about. You guys were only up 11-10 after the first quarter, and it looked like your defense really stepped up. Is there anything in particular that you said to the girls, or with having such a senior-led team, do they know that they need to pick up the defensive end of the floor if they're not really hot on offense?
Well, the thing is, we talk all the time about defense being the most important thing, and we want to have defense, good rebounding. We did a good job on the boards tonight, perhaps a little bit of slippage there at the end, but generally speaking, a good job on the boards, and then the offense will come around after that. So, we try really not to talk about stepping up. We say if you're stepping up, then why weren't you there to start with? So we played better. We were able to get into their passing lanes a little bit, and I think the speed of the game actually caught up with them quicker than it caught up with us, and so they were taking some shots that were a little bit off balance and stuff like that, and then we were doing a good job of sweeping up on the board. So I think that made a big difference, and then we were able to hit enough shots in there, even though we weren't really clicking well on offense, to sort of expand it out a little bit.
And any thoughts on you're coming down in the home stretch here, the second half of the part of the season? Any thoughts going into the tournament and all of that?
Well, the first thought I have is I hope we don't have any more snow. Playing 2 nights back-to-back against tough opponents is really, really hard. But, going out to Herndon, they're a good team, and playing out there is tough. And Fairfax, even though they haven't really won anything, they're tough to play. And Centerville sort of seems rejuvenated. So there's no easy games down the stretch, but we hope that that's going to get us ready for the tournament.
Great. Well, congratulations, Coach, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Jen, of course, also got to catch up with our co-players of the game, Erin McGartland and Brianna Johnson, 2 players from the Oakton Cougars.
Hi, I'm here with our 2 players of the game, Erin McGartland and Brianna Johnson from Oakton. Congratulations on the wins, girls. Erin, I'll start with you. It looked like you guys started off a little cold from the offensive end. What really helped you turn it around? It looked like Chantilly went to a zone there in the second quarter, and you got a few more open looks. And did that help you kind of get warmed up there going in the second half?
Yeah, like you said, we did start off cold. Unfortunately, we weren't hitting our shots, which was unfortunate. Once we started going into our offense, running some plays, kind of executing some, we did end up getting into a flow and start pushing the ball, starting to get some points on the board.
And Oakton, you moved to 18-0 now, correct?
19? I don't know.
18 or 19, and with the undefeated season, does that put any added pressure onto the team? And if so, how do you guys deal with that?
Really, we just take it game by game. Producer always tells us to just like we can't look ahead too much because it will lose our focus on our next game. So really, we're just looking at our next game on Tuesday. That's all we really think about. So.
Congratulations. Brianna, I realize you transferred in recently to Oakton, but you guys are a pretty senior-led team. Just talk about how much that helps you guys. You have a young point guard, a freshman point guard who does an excellent job for you guys. But just having the experience out there, how does that help you guys?
I think it definitely helps us, keeps the leadership up, and our team is pretty bonded as the season goes by. Every game, everybody's getting together, even if the younger ones are definitely catching on. Like you said, the point guard, she's done very well for us. And I think that the older, the seniors, we're just pulling them along. But everybody is doing their part as we go.
And I spoke with your coach about this prior to speaking with you both. You guys were only up 11-10 at the end of the first quarter. You were a little cold from the floor, but it looked like your defense really stepped up. And is there anything in particular that he said, or as like I said, seniors, did you know that you guys just had to step up on the defensive end to kind of get your offense going?
I think he definitely put it out there we should get up on them, but also us, the seniors, we're telling them let's go, we got to do it. Defense wins games, you know. You have to pull it up to the score because we're down 1.
And are there any games coming up that you guys are looking forward to the most?
Like Eric said, it's the next game that's the best. So there's next game.
All right, well, thank you very much, and congratulations on the win, girls.
Thank you.
And there you see the final score, as well as Erin McGartland with 17 points leading the Cougars. Chantilly was led by Lisa Comerford. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back with some gymnastics. I'm now joined in the studio by Coach Maureen Naquin, the head coach of the Chantilly gymnastics team. Now, Coach, you guys just had a recent meet with some out-of-district competition from the Liberty District, Langley and Stonebridge and some others. What were the highlights of that meet for your team?
Well, it's always good for us to compete with some of the kids out of districts. It gives our athletes a chance to see what's out there for regions. And some of the highlights were we had a few of our kids trying new skills, and they were successful at that. And I was able also to get all my kids in the meet, which was really nice. It was hosted at Herndon. We usually do a lot of our meets together.
Now, Ellie Tara is one of the top gymnasts in the region. What are some of the things that you think make her such a strong gymnast?
Well, I've known Ellie since she was a young child. She's always been very disciplined, very dedicated to her sport. She pays great attention to detail. She's also just a really, really hard worker. Yeah.
How have you seen her evolve from when she was a younger gymnast to now when she's a leader and a senior on the Chantilly team?
Well, it's really been great to see her grow. When she started as a freshman with us, she was very quiet, almost a little timid, hard worker, didn't say a lot. Now she's become such a leader for the other girls, and the girls aspire to be like her. She works with them. She's actually done most of the choreography for all our floor routines, and she's actually really talented at that. So she just has actually really become the type of person on the team who cares more about the other athletes than necessarily her performance, which has been great to see her grow like that. And she's much more outgoing, outspoken. She's just a great help for us.
Sounds like you have a young coach in training with Ellie. Now, I know in gymnastics every year one of the big things is injuries, because if your team can get through the season without a lot of injuries, certainly you'll be more competitive at districts and regions. And I know in the past your team has definitely had its share. How is everyone faring this season, and will they be at full force heading into districts?
This season, everything looks good. We did have a difficult season last year. We had 2 of our athletes have ulnar ligament injuries in their elbows. That can actually be a career-ending injury for the kids. Fortunately, both of them, Heather and Ellie, came back. They worked really hard. One had surgery, but it's about 6 months of rehab for them. So I was really proud of the fact that they could actually come back and compete this year and really compete at full strength. Right now, we haven't had any injuries. We're looking really strong, and we just want to continue with that through the district, regional, state meet.
Now, I know that you were saying before we started the program that your husband is your assistant coach,
Right.
and he coaches over at Herndon. Of course, he coaches Maria Hayden, who's another one of the top gymnasts. What has it been like having that relationship with Herndon and having him be able to help you with your athletes at Chantilly and vice versa?
It's really a great help. My husband's been coaching high school gymnastics for probably 30 years. So he's really experienced, and he's a wonderful coach to have. Working with both schools together is really nice. The kids have gotten a great bond together. A lot of them are in club together, so they know each other. And it just works out really well. Herndon, comes over to Chantilly. Our school has probably one of the best setups for gymnastics in the county. We have a room and equipment, and that just makes it a lot easier for the girls rather than trying to pull the equipment out every day, which unfortunately a lot of schools have to. So it's great. I mean, it is a competitive environment. They work well together, but they also compete against each other. So it really, it helps them.
And your team is having a fantastic season. I think you're undefeated at this juncture. What are some of the things that you think have made this team so competitive this year?
Well, I think we struggled a little bit last year with the injuries, and they really want to do well this year. I have two seniors, Katie Garansky and, of course, Ellie, that have competed with me for all 4 years, and they really want to go out on top. And they've worked really hard for that, and they've really built the rest of the team up. So that's one of it. And they have a good work ethic, and they pulled the athletes up with them. So I think that's what they're trying to do. They want to finish their senior year really strong.
I know that earlier in January you had a 6-team meet, and another athlete for your team that really stood out was Lindsay Saunders. Can you talk a little bit about her progress this season? I know she's a junior, so she would be back next year to replace some of the senior leadership that you're losing.
Yeah, I actually have two juniors that I know, I've known since they were really young kids. Lindsay Saunders one, and then Lonnie Cruz is the other one. Lindsay's a great kid. She's really grown as a person all through the years that I've known her. She's starting to become a leader on the team, helping the other kids. She's one of, I only have 2 club gymnasts. She's one of them, so she does double duty during the season, which makes it really hard amongst all the other things they do. Most of my athletes, besides gymnastics, do drama, they do theater, they do chorus, they do all that. So they have very, very busy schedules. Lindsay's one of them, and so she's just really devoted a lot just being on the team, and she's really helped us. Her gymnastics has gotten a lot stronger, so we're looking forward to great things next year.
And before districts, you have one more meet against some of the district competition with Herndon and Oakton, and I think Fairfax as well. Are there specific things that you're wanting your team to work on, or are there specific things that athletes are hoping to improve upon in their skills before districts? What
we're going to try to do with our last meet is make sure that we've added all our skills that we need for districts and make sure that they can compete those safely. We're also working on refining our routines, making sure our dance is perfect, our timing and everything. So that's really what we're trying to do. We've had our routines for the most part set all year. A couple of kids have added new things, and so it's just a matter of blending those into our routines and doing it safely and efficiently, and so to work on those scores.
Now, you have several athletes on your team who just focus on 1 or 2 of the events and don't do all the all-around competition. How important is it to have athletes who do focus on those specific events? And can you talk a little bit about what they bring to the team?
Well, it's always great to have athletes that do 1 or 2 events. During the season, they do compete every week, the kids. So having extra athletes to fill in so that some of the kids get a break is great. And then, there's always kids that just excel in one particular event, whether it be vault, whether it be bars. And so, that's just nice. They can bring in a high score there and not have to worry about, all the other events. So it works out well.
Now, I know that you have been involved in the gymnastics community for quite some time, and you're very familiar with the other teams in the region. Who are some of the other top athletes in the region that are not on your team that you think are going to be very strong competition?
Well, Herndon has several. Lauren Sullivan, Maria Hayden, of course. Kadera Malvo is another one who's really done a great job this year. Those 3, they're going to stand out. We haven't competed against some of the other out-of-district teams like Jefferson, I hear has some good ones. I think West Potomac or Edison might. So we'll see at regions. So we haven't had a chance to see them this year.
Now, Coach, I know one of the big stories in the region this year has been the proposed budget cuts for 2010 and the fact that gymnastics is one of the sports that has been in the discussions that could potentially get cut. And one of the reasons that has been proposed is that there are these club opportunities for gymnasts. Can you talk about why it's important to have gymnastics as a high school sport?
Well, I think what is not always understood is most of my girls and most of the girls that are doing high school gymnastics have already left club. Many of them do other activities, like I mentioned before, the drama and all the other things that high school has to offer, and they don't have time for club. It's a huge commitment. By the time they hit 9th or 10th grade, they're ready to move on. So there really isn't that outlet for these high school gymnasts to do club anymore. There's not something that really fits for them unless they're planning on going on to college, and that's only a very, very small percentage. So I think having gymnastics in the high school is really important. You know, sports brings so much to the kids. It teaches them discipline and direction. It keeps them focused on what they're doing. It's just a great exercise. Any sport does, and you know, with the childhood obesity and all the other things that we face, to take sports out of the county, I think is really going to be difficult. And I think that gymnastics is one that is not really replaced. That there's no other where for these high school kids to do it.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're going to take another break, but when we come back, we'll have more of the Fairfax Sports Report. Well, that's it for us tonight at the Fairfax Sports Report. Before we go, we once again want to remind you, we want to thank the folks that helped make this show possible, our friends at CCI Screen Printing, and also don't forget that we're on the web at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. We'll see you next week.